The relationship between a sports coach and a student is said to be one of the most sacred bonds that someone can have. A strong relationship between a coach and a player begins when there is an open line of communication, respect between the player and coach, and both parties trust each other completely to fulfill their jobs. However, many coaches turn to belittle their students and make them feel bad about themselves and their efforts. The language of athletic lectures differs from academic language use in many ways. Difference of language between sports coach and pupil. One of my main findings in my research was observing the difference of language between a coach and their pupil. The volleyball coach dominated a large portion of the conversation with his aggressive tone and language choice. The pupil was mostly in the foreground of the conversation. Age difference between the coach and the pupil makes a huge difference in the way pupils are treated by their mentors. Body language. After observing the coach talk negatively about his pupil's performance, I found that body language became a large part of the conversation. The pupil was showing how he felt towards his coach through body language. He hung his head low, slouched his shoulders, and his chest was aimed at the floor. These are all indications that body language shows how one is feeling without having to say anything. The coach maintained the same body language throughout the encounter I observed. He was poised, his shoulders back, and his chest pointed toward the sky to signal his dominance over his pupil. Academic language versus sports language. In an academic environment, we are taught to listen to our teachers and trust them to educate us about the world and the things we need to know to be successful. However, many sports coaches turn to belittling their students instead of building them up to reach their full potential. Between the 3 encounters I observed, 2 of them were negative towards the student. If coaches were reminded that positive feedback helps build the confidence of the pupil, then maybe there would be more positive experiences with sports. I believe I would have had more positive experience with sports if my coaches remembered to build up their players instead of breaking them down. Volleyball coach versus swim coach. Within my findings, I found that the volleyball coach and the swim coach that I observed had many differences and similarities. The volleyball coach was much like the swim coach in the way of professionalism, attire, and punctuality. The swim coach differed from the volleyball coach in many ways. Her positive attitude towards her students far outweighed that of the volleyball coach. Her students reflected her enthusiasm for teaching by smiling, laughing, and overall having an amazing experience together. The differences and similarities between the 2 coaches represents the use of language, tone of voice, and body language and how that affects their students. Conclusion. Many of my findings show the reader that sports language greatly differs from that of an academic language we all know so well through school. Body language plays a large role in communication, whether it is known to the other person or not. The people within the conversations each had their own language they used to teach the way they saw fit. I learned to always be optimistic and positive with my children if and when I teach in my future career. Thank you so much.